Is there a finer musical instrument alleged
Cletus?
than the kazoo?
Where's Cletus?
I put that to you.
Like a kazoo is just basically a comb with a
kazoo?
Yeah.
A kazoo?
Kazoo is a
That's a
Toyota
Yaris.
racing car.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a
A
kazoo.
kazoo
Kazoo.
is something that, well,
Alright.
you toot.
I always thought it was kazoo.
Anyway, I don't know whether that's it. I like it, but I don't think that's
not it.
the music for us.
I think we have too many
and
teeth for that.
welcome to the CarsGuide Podcast, where we tear down, pressure test, and rebuild the issues of the automotive week. I'm James, and with me are Richard
Buongiorno.
and Peter.
Hello.
This week, among other things, we'll look at a diesel downturn, Vlad's new limo, and of course, flying army vehicles. But first,
Obviously.
must watch. Yes, so crazy Elon's been on the Twitters again, and earlier this week he said, quote, "I'm starting a candy company and it's going to be amazing." So as well as rockets, colonising Mars, various vehicles that have little chance of being actually built, and a boring company, he's now going to start on the lollies and make them, sell them, I don't know, but really it's about a punch-up he's having with Warren Buffett, because Warren Buffett, head of Berkshire Hathaway, that big investment and holding company,
Yes.
said that what you really need is some kind of competitive advantage, which he sees Tesla's is I keep on calling it Telstra. Tesla's is fading away.
Yeah, well, the Telstra shares are going up
They
or
are.
down. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
That's probably a better bet. But Berkshire Hathaway has owned a company called See's Candies, which is not in Australia, but it's in America and other markets since about 1972. So it's a sly dig at him. But what would you make of Elon's musk sticks?
Well, I'm not buying any of those,
No.
that's for sure.
No. I do love a mustard, though.
A suspicious purple colour.
Well, aside from that, he's splashed out $9.9 million of his own money to buy 33,000 additional Tesla shares at full market price.
Yeah.
So this isn't him being given
Options or
another
whatever.
kind of handout in part of his remuneration package. He's bought them out of his own pocket as a signal to the market that's saying this is how confident I am that things are all absolutely fine and going in the right direction.
Well, maybe he thinks if he buys more shares, he'll actually get his Model 3 before the end of the year.
I just think it's bizarre. So is this his type of financial way about going about ensuring confidence in his company? Look, I'm buying heaps.
This is not unusual. Like, American companies are really odd. Like, they'll bring in people to a struggling company, put them on the board, and I think somebody says to them, "Look, just buy 10,000 shares, can you?"
Yeah.
And they do.
And that's just to make everyone think everything's fine.
Oh, these guys must believe in this.
Yeah, 'cause they're buying them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that happened recently here with Myer or something.
Yeah.
A couple of new board members, they bought all these
What's
shares.
That worked.
Tax deductible.
Well, look, you mentioned it, Peter, but the Model 3 production, Bloomberg's production tracker, down to 1,680 vehicles per week
Zowie.
at the moment. So it's dropped off a cliff, sadly. And remember that Elon promised 6,000 cars a week by June, which is actually 3 weeks away.
Well, he's got 3 weeks to turn it
He's got
around.
3 weeks to turn it around. It's a hill to climb. We're all confident that he'll get there. We believe. But look, speaking of people in trouble, former VW boss Martin Winterkorn. Now, he resigned from that role back in 2015.
Yes.
It's amazing. That's how long ago it is.
With a golden parachute.
But he has been charged by the US Department of Justice for conspiring to mislead regulators over diesel emissions. It is, however, unlikely that he'll face trial in the US because Germany follows a policy of not extraditing its citizens. But this just goes on and on and on. It's an unending nightmare for Volkswagen.
Well, that's what happens when you do what they did. They faffed around. They tried to deceive people. I mean, I still think the governments are so lazy. They go, "Oh, we'll just let the car companies tell us how it goes."
Yeah,
So
sure.
they weren't really that serious about it. But once sprung,
Yeah.
Now, you were saying earlier in the office that it's unlikely that anything's going to happen here because Germany's got really strict laws
No
on
extradition,
extradition. So they'll never get him out of the country.
No.
It's one of those things. I mean, it sends another signal. It's a very public thing on behalf of the American authorities that says this is serious and we're going to, even though you've resigned from the company 2 or 3 years ago, you're still in the crosshairs, you know.
I mean, the DOJ don't mind a bit of grandstanding. It's kind of there's always some up and coming attorney type who wants to go,
Right.
watch this, I'm going to charge a bloke who I'm never going to be able to try. But
Yes.
yeah, it does send a message to the corporations there that we will make life hell for you for as long as possible.
Yeah, but the concentric rings that continue to echo out from the whole epicenter of Dieselgate,
Yeah.
so called, continue. Richard, you've determined that a couple of brands in Europe are walking away from diesel engines for their passenger cars.
That's right. Nissan only announced at the beginning of this week that it would be phasing out its diesel passenger cars gradually.
Yep.
Toyota has already come forward and said that it's going to be axing its diesel cars from its passenger car lineup by the end of this year, 2018. And there are a couple of academics who believe that Honda and Mazda could be going the same way as well. It's mainly to do with consumer loss in confidence because of the Dieselgate issue, and also the 2020 regulations, which are coming up too, which are going to make it.
You've found a massively reliable source here. It's Stefan Bratzel. And he's the Director of Automotive Management at the University of Applied Sciences in Berchtesgaden, Germany. So, he's the go-to guy. I always find. I mean, I'm tired of hearing his name.
I mean, he does pick up the phone when you call him. That's the main thing.
Oh, he's so annoying, that Stefan. Look, I think he might be right. I don't know if he's completely right about Mazda, though, because Mazda have made a pretty strong commitment towards combustion engines. If anyone can
that's
produce
a great point.
A clean burning diesel, it's probably Mazda. They've decided to put EVs and hybrids on hold until they get everything out of combustion. So I reckon Mazda will.
You've really got to take your hat off to Mazda, haven't you? Because they have gone their own way and said, all right, you can do now they're turning to turbo technology on petrol engines, but they did wring the last possible efficiency out of internal combustion engines, lightweighting the car, making the aero as good as it could be, making the engines as efficient as possible. That to me seemed like an eminently logical way to go.
Absolutely.
And look, it's compared to the cost of investing in electric and hybrid today, much smarter from a corporate perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Shareholders will like
and
that.
And now compression ignition petrol engines, they're really doing some interesting stuff.
Merck's doing one of those as well.
I think so. I think so. So, speaking of Mazda, Richard, again, you've actually been working. You've been doing some.
He's been on the internet.
Get used to.
Digging around. You've discovered an approval, a logo approval through the UK Intellectual Property Office. Tell us about that.
What's new?
Very interesting. I like to lurk at the UK Intellectual Property Office website. Just seeing.
Call it trolling.
I call it trolling. Just hang out there with my other lurking mates. And we just get to see the new logos and trademarks which are going through. And sometime in March, Mazda applied for a trademark, and it was approved this week. And the trademark was for the word Mazda. Either they forgot to do it at some point, or they've updated it slightly. The logo does look slightly different. It's the text, it's the written out Mazda lowercase version of it. The A's now are separated from the other letters. In the old version, they're joined. But
I find lowercase hard to believe, Richard.
Lowercase.
I think it is actually uppercase.
Is it? No, it's lower. Look, it's lower and upper. It's
okay, fair enough. Good. Okay, we end in a Mexican standoff on that one.
In the IT world, that's known as camel case.
Oh,
wow.
Camel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. What?
Camel case.
Yeah.
Two humps instead of one, or
just up, down,
a dromedary.
Down, yeah.
Okay. But then that does open up the discussion about logos, and it seems as though Mazda's kind of going back to the future if appearances are correct. But which logos do we like and which don't we? I mean, over 130 odd years of car production, which are the ones that you think are really fantastic and do a lot for their respective brand, and others that do the opposite? Peter, do any pop into your mind?
You gave me you gave me some notice on this, and I can't really put my finger on the ones I really like. I mean, there are ones where you just kind of go, what the hell is that?
One of those for me is actually Subaru. I
do not.
I don't like the Subaru Constellation.
No, it's the
logo.
Pallades. It's the Seven Sisters.
I understand that. I just don't like it as a logo. Okay,
folks, this is terrible podcasting. The look James just shot Richard Berry could have buckled the hull of a super tanker.
Yeah. I get that look about 4 times a day as we sit next to each other.
So I just find that a bit messy and hard to kind of bond with.
I do like the Renault logo, the current one, the diamond.
The big diamond.
Yeah, I really like it.
Really?
It's just. It is unmistakable.
Well, it's
Renault.
funny, isn't it? Because we were calling, they called time on Mazda's logo at one point because it was too close to the Renault
I
logo.
remember that. And I
They
remember
had to
them
back
then,
out of it.
And then they put out the Laguna, which looked exactly like the Mazda 626 at the time, which was cheeky as.
But Richard, what lights your fire
All-time
logo-wise?
favourite, the Alfa Romeo one of the big snake eating the man.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Great.
He's getting gobbled up. His
a good one.
arms are sticking out like, help me.
is a
And the
good
snake's
one.
just going, I love it.
I think for purity, I think the three-pointed star of Mercedes-Benz is pretty much, from a design point of view, perfect.
Yeah.
And historically, I mean, it's meant to be water and land and air,
Oh,
and
is it?
it describes the three areas in which they operate. So that's where it came from.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very simple and recognisable, and it's just one of those iconic
Yeah.
logos.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do also like some of the sub logos, like the QV Alpha,
Yes.
the Cloverleaf, and I do like the M logo. I think that's quite.
Yep.
I think M is one of the most recognisable automotive brands.
As well
on
as
the
that, the
planet.
colours too, isn't it? It's like a light blue and then a purple and then a red.
Yeah.
And those somehow,
It's
if you
really
look at them and you
striking.
go, they would never go together,
Yeah,
but
and
they
then-
work beautifully
Yeah.
in that context.
One that makes me feel really quite happy is the Toyota written across the back of a tailgate of a ute.
What, with one of the letters kind of cut out to make something zany and fun?
Just Toyota.
Toyota.
I like it because it's always been there my whole life.
Okay, that's good.
Whether you see it on the back of,
Yeah.
one in your driveway or an Al Qaeda ute or something like that. It's just, it's
Mate,
always
something
there.
else that's been there your whole life
Ford badge.
is Winton.
Oh, no, it's not. Okay.
Australian performance drivers love their cars, and the performance car they love the most is the one that's done it all. From the Mount Panorama Winners Circle to your driveway, all roads lead to Winton. The 2018 Winton Turbo now features an even more potent version of the powerhouse Redback 2-stroke V9 Turbo, backed up by the latest generation version of our patented Torque Tumbler transmission technology. Once you eye it and try it, we guarantee you'll buy it. Australia's Winton Turbo. Inspiration is standard.
Torque Tumbler transmission available at extra cost. Wheels and tyres sold separately. Batteries not included. Consult your Winton dealer for final pricing. Wonderful words from Winton. Yes. Look, they're friends of the show. And speaking of special friends of the show, of course, it's Frosty Chops.
I thought you were going to say me.
The head of PR and, of course, government relations, corporate and government relations at the Winton Motor Company. And he's found himself in a bit of a tight scrape this weekend.
Not so frosty.
He's in Hawaii for a PR conference, and of course he's found himself in a serious hotspot, staying on the main island at the Royal Kona.
Of course.
He's got
Yeah.
some friends there. He's got mates in the industry.
Yeah.
You may have seen that vision of the Mustang being burned to a crisp by the molten lava from the erupting Kilauea volcano. That was Frosty's rental car.
Oh, no.
And I bet you he didn't tick the box.
He hadn't ticked the insurance box.
He never ticks that.
No.
So he's going to have to cough up. He got it from Banger Rentals. It's an older.
It's like a
older
91
Mustang.
Mustang,
It's
isn't
an older
it?
car.
Yeah.
It's a blessed end for that car.
So hopefully you won't have to cough up too much, but just insane.
Yeah.
And you can see in some of the coverage, there's the shot of a bloke running as fast as he can in the other direction.
In his
thongs
thongs
and
with the hair.
Okanui kind of shorts.
Yeah.
Frosty, but
That's Frosty.
Actually, isn't he wearing a muumuu? Because he's not.
he's
He's not a
he had
lead
the-
fellow.
He's
Had the
holding
long-
it together.
I think he's throwing around his head trying to get
Yeah.
people's attention.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's actually. Did you know that Frosty is related to King Kamehameha? Well, that's what he told me anyway.
I thought it was
lineage, which
Duke
goes back-
Kamanahoku, the guy who came out here and
Hang
invented
on a
surfing.
second.
Anyway.
Mm.
Now, in other reports just in, the self-driving Uber, which tragically killed a person in Arizona in March, we now know that the software on board had in fact detected the person that came within range of the front of the car, but made the decision not to do anything about it, which ironically, when you think about software, programming, coding, the whole construction of it, that's human error.
Human error.
So
And,
here's the technology that's trying to eradicate human error that has killed someone through human error.
Well, it's libertarianism at its best, really, just indulging in some eugenics.
Yeah.
If you're going to cross the road, no, we don't want you.
well, apparently the XC90 did actually detect,
Yep.
as you said, did detect a pedestrian, but decided they had they were trying to iron out the bugs of it stopping it from being so jerky when it drove, because it was stopping for everything originally.
I see.
Plastic bags and a McDonald's bag rolling out across the road or something like
dogs.
that.
Yep.
Dogs.
Dogs.
And that was turned up too high or dialed up too high.
Right.
So it saw that pedestrian and her bike as just,
Something
rubbish.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
What I'm thinking is these things are obviously, the radar can tell density.
Yes.
Like we know this from Hunt for Red October. So it's very important. Look, it's education. So it's, and as we discovered in your video with the XC60,
yep.
where we
use the giant bear.
I mean, because, that sooky intern wouldn't stand in front of the car.
He is gutless.
Just show some commitment.
Yeah.
But it clearly felt that the density wasn't there, so it was
That's
not
right.
human or
Yep.
organic.
Yep.
Yes. So
It's just unusual that they're at the point where they're trialing them on a road. Yeah, sure, under supervision, but
Yes.
that type of mistake.
But even there's the technical issue. There's the kind of dialing up or dialing down sensitivity of various attributes of the systems. But then you have the ethical issues that overlay on top of that. So even if you've detected that there's a human in front of the car, if another incident is happening at the same time, you have to somehow program in a decision that says, I'm either going to hit that woman with the bike or I'm going to crash into that tree and it might kill you.
Yeah.
And so most of the car companies so far have put their hand up to say, we are going to protect the occupants of the car. So that if there's collateral damage for someone else outside the car, that's the downside of the whole thing, which is a really complex issue.
it is messy, and I think, but I think you can't let a car out in the road if you haven't gone to a lab and tested that it's not going to mow down a human. End of story.
Yeah.
Like I just think, how can they let that out like that?
Yeah. Well, look,
It's negligent.
on the back of that autonomous technology, let's of course move to look. It's a well we go to every now and then, and it's flying vehicles.
I love it.
This time, of course, it's the US Army.
Yes.
And
Obviously.
they want to be able to rain down whatever they want to rain down or transport whatever they need to transport via quick-moving flying cars.
That's right.
Richard, I think you've got the poop on this. Tell us what's
The
going on.
US Army is very keen to get its hands on technology which will be able to help them develop vertical landing and takeoff aircraft. And Uber is going headfirst into flying cars. They believe that the cities will go vertical, and then so will transport.
Right.
So Uber's completely convinced, and it's teaming up with NASA and a few other aerospace companies to develop flying car technology. The US Army is really interested in Uber's plans for rotors, and has given Uber $1 million to develop a stacked rotor system which will be able to be used in vertical landing and takeoff.
Well, of course, the US military also has those flying aircraft carriers that you saw in the Avengers. That's already happened, hasn't it?
Do you know?
It
That was in
has.
Doctor Who before it was in that.
Oh,
rubbish.
really?
It certainly
Was it?
was.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, it's a short step
Yeah.
from
Yes.
vehicles to aircraft carriers,
Because, I mean,
then they'll just make it real.
At the moment, you've got you've got Chinook helicopters, which are have been carrying payloads and troops for almost 80 years.
they're
I think.
monsters. Well, not quite that long, but a while.
A long time.
Yeah.
So they need something to replace those. And those Ospreys,
That's the rotating engine wing
they
things.
fall out of the sky.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me a Harrier jump jet any day.
Oh, I love a Harrier.
Well, speaking of things falling out of the sky, a word from those irreverent youngsters at Oversteer.
What happens when you put three hooligans together in one room? You get a podcast full of hectic banter.
Hummer is for any rugged man. This manly scent possesses
well,
a blend.
that rules me right out. Jeez.
Stupid stories.
It's a cruise ship with all the inside scooped out, water fills it up, and then you put a pirate ship in the middle. It's nothing more gangster than a ship in a ship.
You're an idiot.
And some discussion about cars.
So we've got the K cars as well. What do you guys think? There's this new Honda Sports concept there.
I think it looks so cool. It does look a bit funky, mate.
The Oversteer Podcast on the Cars Guide website, iTunes, and where all good podcasts are sold.
Look, I tolerate them. Yeah.
Speaking of tolerating people, big bad Vlad Putin.
Oh, he's tolerant.
Has
Hootie
swapped
poot.
out his Merc limo for a local facsimile. It's made by a mob called Namey. It's the Name Cortez. It's a long wheelbase Luxo barge, and it was seen on the 250-metre cruise at his official thingy when he was invested as, whatever he is. And it looks to me like a cross between a Chrysler 300, a Rolls-Royce Ghost, and a London black cab. I mean, and the specs are...
So it's the Bentley EXP F9 is what you're telling me.
I suppose so. The specs are classified. So not much is known.
Yeah.
That all resides in some black box in the Kremlin in terms of what the spec of this car
Probably
is.
a Flintstone.
So NAME is the Central Scientific Research Automobile and Automotive Engines Institute. And it's 100 years old this year. So they've been tinkering around with cars for 100 years. And allegedly, pardon me, Porsche supplied a 450 kilowatts, so 600 odd horsepower, turbo V8, presumably out of an old Cayenne or a Panamera or something, for some earlier prototypes. But those in the know say that NAME has now developed a second, significantly more powerful engine.
That's how paranoid they are. That's how
You
paranoid
know who
they
told
are.
us this?
Stefan.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the know, isn't he? Stefan, the guy who told us about Nissan.
Yeah.
Oh,
With
of
the
course,
diesel.
Stefan.
Yeah.
Our academic mate in Germany.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I tried to put him in the back of my mind and succeeded.
James gave me that face
At the
again.
back when it exited your skull.
So the whole thing would presumably be tank armoured.
Yeah.
Like it's going to weigh
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
And it needs some engine just to move it and Vlad down the road so he can get in and out in fancy style.
But will it get itself beached on a Sydney car park curb like the Beast?
The Beast did.
Right.
That must be the test.
You've got to imagine though, like this armoured presidential limo would have everything. Especially being Putin.
Yeah.
I love how they're so paranoid they didn't even want Porsche to provide the final engine.
Yeah.
They probably took the engine apart, reverse engineered it, and built their own.
Do you think the interior would be kind of Trump-esque in its gaudiness? It would be...
Vlad seems to be a bit... He's more about going diving and coming up with a valuable artefact.
But bare-chested at the
Yeah,
same time. And then riding on horseback.
Yeah.
That's true. Look, he is the world's richest vampire, but I don't think he's as gaudy as Trump.
He sleeps upside down with his eyes open.
I do think he's because you don't really... I mean, if he is like that, you wouldn't know. I mean, he claims that his only assets are a small dacha outside some obscure Russian town and a car parking
small Dutch
space. Small Dutch called Colin. And
2,000 Fabergé eggs.
2,000 Fabergé.
Yeah.
And a parking space in downtown, parking space in downtown Moscow.
That's it.
That's all he
That's
claims
what's
he
on the
owns.
official assets register.
His pecuniary interest
Vlad.
register.
Wow.
That's bull. Like, he's one of the world's richest men.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't have access to his personal record, whereas he
That would
has
be
access
hilarious
to
if he
everyone's
Well, to
personal
yours,
records.
yes.
So moving on from Vlad's Luxo machine, we owe our listeners some answers because last week we put out there half a dozen more of our Is It Illegals.
Well, that's
Now,
why I'm here this week, because I
all-
listened to last week's.
All these stories are on the advice section at carsguide.com.au, so have a look. But I did say that we'd come back to you with answers. First one was, is it illegal to drive with the interior lights on? And frankly, the answer is no, but you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea because it can, well, all kinds of things. Increases reflections inside the car, makes it more difficult for you to see out of the car.
And
all
it means
that
we
stuff.
can see you. People, I don't want to see you pick your nose.
Is it illegal to drive 5 kilometres over the speed limit? Well,
Yes.
because there's a speed limit.
Yeah.
And when you go over it,
You're cooked.
you get booked. So, okay, there may be a fudge factor that some police use their discretion and maybe give you a little bit of wiggle room over the top. But technically, yes, it's illegal. Not even in an emergency can you travel faster.
I
than
would
the speed
say
limit.
it's impossible to drive the speed limit. Impossible.
Moving on. I just don't know where to go with that
fancy
kind of
cars,
comment.
Richard.
I would say that it's impossible to hold a constant speed constantly.
You just stopped the whole conversation
Sorry.
in its tracks.
Sorry.
If that's not an ironic
You've
thing to
ruined
say.
it. We have to start again now.
Is it illegal to drive through empty parking spaces?
No.
And there are no laws concerning this one at all.
Otherwise,
So
my mother will be on the run from the law.
Yeah, that's right. Is it illegal to drive in reverse? Well, No, it's not. But it depends. I mean, you may want to reverse out of your driveway. You may want to select reverse and, all of that.
Don't reverse up the M5.
But you don't do it all the way up to the shops or on a freeway. No. You have to use some common sense and discretion there.
But still, is that illegal?
Or on an active racetrack.
Yes, because I think there are broader laws about it's basically sensible use of a vehicle, and that is irresponsible use of a motor car. Is it illegal to drive in high heels? No, but the laws of common sense do apply, so you shouldn't. Particularly, Richard, I know you have a penchant for slipping on the heels.
I'm off the hook.
Don't do it.
Off the hook.
Is it illegal to drink alcohol in a car while driving? Now, this one was perplexing because, of course, the answer is yes. And we've listed the explicit laws in various states.
Here's the thing. So years ago, and it must have changed. Years ago, I was doing some work in Adelaide, and apropos of nothing, I was being driven to the airport in a Lotus Esprit.
It's a weird chauffeur car.
I know. And so we pulled up next to this guy who had a beer on the go.
Yeah.
This is in Adelaide. Yeah. And I said to my driver, well, he was a friend. He said he used to be a Formula Holden driver.
Your driver friend?
Yeah, he was the Formula Holden driver.
Your professional racing driver friend.
Famous for putting
Where's this story going,
his
Peter?
Holden on the roof. Anyway, didn't have a roof. Anyway, so I said, what's going on here? He says, in South Australia, it is legal to have an open container of alcohol. This is 20 years ago.
Look, it's interesting. We might get our South Australian podcast listeners to try and clarify because we do have firm evidence and links off to, I think it's Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, but it may not be. We couldn't.
Man, if it's illegal in Queensland,
yeah, that's true. So South Australian podcast listeners, let us know.
I mean, this is 20 years ago, so it could have changed. But I'm just curious to see if that's changed.
Good. Yeah. Now, we will head to our garage. And which particular vehicles have been residing within it this week. Peter, we'll start with you because it's a double up. Two significant cars that you've been driving this week. Tell us about both of them, please.
The Jaguar XF Sportbrake First Edition, which is based on the top spec S. So there's a limited number of first editions that come into the country, obviously. And it was...
I think it's for the first year of production.
Yeah, that might be what it is.
You can buy it for the first year of production.
It was... lovely.
Great.
It is such a nice car. That engine and transmission, it's a proper wafter. It does respond if you want to get on it, but why would you? It's so nice. And it only comes in black, so it's a hearse.
And I'm a huge wagon fan.
Yeah.
I know it's called
lovely.
Brake.
Yep.
I just love a wagon.
It is absolutely lovely. And I was, my family and I very much enjoyed that car. The usual JLR issues with the dodgy sat-nav and yada yada. But really, it's just a lovely car.
And then you went the Alpina.
The Alpina. So the Alpina B4S.
Yep.
So the Alpina first came back with the B4, which is based on the 440i. And then after BMW put the LCI Lifecycle Impulse midlife thing on the 4 Series, out came the S.
Yep.
So basically what Alpina does is it takes the 440i and just turns it up. This thing...
And these are sold in BMW dealerships.
Yeah.
So it's an authorised deal.
Yep. It's so that they've had a sort of unofficial official relationship for like 50 years or something.
Yeah.
So this car, it's great. It's the anti-M4. It's almost as quick. It's all of the good things of a fast BMW, and the engine. So it's the B58 from the 440, not the N55 from the M4 or S55. Beautifully smooth, but so fast. It winds up really quickly. Twin turbo and like a little bit of noise from the turbos, which I quite like, but very comfortable.
And you were saying that the steering has been slightly changed as well. So the BMW steering, which does have a reputation for being a little bit anaesthetised.
Yeah, so a bit of feel in it.
Yep.
Good.
I don't like the wheel though. It's a standard 440 wheel with an Alpina badge.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
right.
And
a bit of aerolite showing around the edge of the
it's a little bit like, I don't know if it was me, but the Alpina badging on the back looks
it's
a bit
crooked.
wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved it. It was great. I mean,
good one.
The looks are a bit sort of David Hasselhoff Berlin Wall, but
terrific.
It was great.
And Richard, you've been in the Big L.
Look, talking of David Hasselhoff, this is probably one of,
That's actually the Big H.
Yeah, the Big H.
You've been in the... Anyway.
Yeah.
The Lexus RC300, it looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
It just doesn't go amazing. look, the 2 litre, it's got 180 kilowatts. It should be plenty, but it's a heavy car.
Tubby.
And look, it feels good. The chassis feels good. The steering feels good. The grip feels good. It just doesn't have an engine which matches that car.
Yeah, right.
But look, we've been living with it with a family with a toddler in the back.
Yeah.
You can fit a car seat in there.
And how does that go? The entry and egress?
Actually, do you know what? It's the one car that he has just got straight into and
the doors
gets
are
into
long.
his seat.
Oh, okay, great.
Every other one you have to bribe him just to sit in his car.
Okay.
But it's because he revealed today that he thought it was Lightning McQueen. It's red.
Hey.
So this is the reason why he's been getting into his car seat.
Fantastic.
So that's
that's good.
Yeah.
All right,
So
we'll
he's
maintain
loved
that
it.
myth
Tip
and
for
you'll
new
have
parents.
no problems. For what it's worth, I've also been driving the Renault Sport Clio RS200 Cup.
One of my faves.
It's a 1.6 Turbo 4, 6-speed dual clutch, and at the moment, it's about $37,000 drive away. And I enjoyed driving it. 2 things I must put in the demerit column. In manual mode, at just around town speeds, that dual clutch is very shunty.
Yeah.
You've got to be on it.
It
to
is
use
not
manual
refined.
mode. Yep.
The car really comes alive when you start to exploit its potential a little more. As an everyday driver, I think it could be a bit frustrating. And also in a straight line, when you do accelerate hard, particularly in the lower gears, there is some torque steer there. But hey, that's the nature of front wheel drive. But a really swift and capable little car.
Manual gearbox. I mean, that was a travesty when
No manual gearbox,
No manual
yeah.
gearbox arrived with that car. But
It's very, I actually think it's better than at the time it came out. It was way better than Golf's DSG.
oh yeah.
Way better. It's still
Yeah,
pretty good
yeah.
in auto mode.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, with that, we've reached the finish line. And thank you, Peter.
No problem.
And Richard.
Thank you.
And thanks to our producer, Barbara, for driving the panel for this podcast. I'm not saying I hate him, but I'd unplug his life support to charge my phone. And thank you for listening. Please let us know what you think of the program. Search for Cars Guide on Facebook and Instagram and use the hashtag CGPodcast, or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. Please rate and review us on iTunes. Only takes a minute and helps let others know about the podcast. Thank you. I hope you can join us next week. Until then, a question. Why don't AU Falcons sustain much damage in front-end collisions? Because the tow truck takes most of the impact.